Well, hello there and welcome. My name is Kylie Patchett and I'm your host, and welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast. This show is all about sharing the real and raw stories from women who have undergone midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind them in patterns of staying stuck, small, and like their needs don't matter. You see, I believe that the years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage, a deep invitation after so many years of giving our time, attention, and energy to others to carve out the same time, energy, and attention in ourselves, in our health, our love, our connection, our vitality, our purpose, our real needs and deep desires. You know, those ones lying dormant underneath all the duty, responsibility, pushing, striving, and achieving of our 20s and 30s? You see, at this stage in our lives, we find ourselves shifting identity potentially, no longer caring as much what other people think, and left wondering why on earth we have not given ourselves permission to do life in the way we truly want to. In this show, I speak to the women brave enough to truth talk their own midlife shedding skin stories, and the healers and helpers who help them transition through these crossroads of change. This is the midlife magic you didn't even know you needed, and I am so freaking glad you found us. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast show. I get to swear every day. I'm so sorry if that offends you. I always think that, I wonder if any of my guests worry. I've got the beautiful Sophie Fletcher with me. Hello, Sophie. How are you?
Hello. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited. I'm absolutely amazed by the color behind you. It's like, for anyone that's not watching the video version of this, it's a stunning, I don't even know, teal green, would you say?
Like, it's very dark green.
It's beautiful. Teal. Luscious. Anyway, Sophie, for those who don't know who you are, would you like to introduce your beautiful self and the work that you do in the world?
So I am a clinical hypnotherapist and have been for nearly 18 years. I always measure it by the birth of my second child because that's when I discovered hypnosis and went on to train. So I've been doing that, but specializing in women's health and empowering women during those transitional times when our hormones go a bit sort of haywire. And we feel that imbalance, not just physically, which is what most people focus on, but also internally. So I look at the link between that and give people really practical tools to help day to day with their mental well-being and to find that balance. But also with hypnotherapy, the beauty of hypnotherapy is that you can also work with physical symptoms, which not many people know about.
Oh, I did know that, but I would love to dive into that because I do think it's not, I feel like all of my training in mind stuff actually only really rounded out when I started to actually integrate the two things together. So when I did my yoga training and then I was like, oh, embodiment, okay, this is a whole other kettle of fish. Yeah, so I'd love to hear in the reverse direction. One other thing that we should talk about is that there is a big day coming up very shortly for you.
Yes.
What is that?
So today is the last day of my 40s. I shall be 50 tomorrow. So I am feeling all the feels around making that transition into a different decade. And also it does feel like a threshold 50. And it's very interesting how that is manifesting in me. So I'll weave some of that in.
Please do. I because I'm really, really interested in I don't remember, did you have the same sense when you turned 40? Like, did that feel as big and as separate to your 30s? No, me neither.
It feels very different. And I've changed a lot in the last decade, not just in myself, but also how I look. So
interesting.
I lost a lot of my hair. I had alopecia.
Oh, wow.
Or they said it was alopecia. I'm not convinced. I think some of it might have been a mix of alopecia and hormonal. But I lost all my hair in my early 40s.
Wow.
So it's grown back, but it's very, very different. And I think I look very different as well. So throughout my 40s, I've had to do a lot of quite deep work
Mm.
around getting to know myself in several different ways. So I feel that this threshold is different, and I feel better equipped in some ways. But I also recognize that there is more coming up on the horizon that I didn't know would be there.
Yeah.
And so it's learning to prepare for that as well.
So when you say you had to get to know yourself in different ways, was that because of, did you have a sense of identity shifting because you didn't look the same, or like what? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it was just really interesting because I think hair loss is a big thing during menopause. It's one of those things that you say, I shouldn't feel this, that I shouldn't feel, this is such a vain thing, it shouldn't really matter. But actually, when you look in the mirror and you see a different person. And I think it's not just about that physical thing of seeing someone different, but also you are changing. So it's just a reflection outside of what's actually going on inside as well. And I think it just shone a spotlight on that. And so I felt I've done a lot of deep work the last few years, and have been in that place where I've been a little bit lost, not sure where my direction is, all those things,
all the things.
And so there's a lot of that, and a lot of that is woven into my book as well, and things that we can do practically to help navigate that. But we're always learning, and there are still things that come up for me and I think whoa, and take me on the back foot, and it's having, and this is where the maintenance stuff comes in. I'm big yoga. I love my yoga. So a lot of mindfulness and yoga comes into that maintenance kind of aspect of
absolutely
the work that I do. Hypnosis, we'll talk more about how that's about changing something in a moment. Right, I've got this, I want to alter the way I see it or experience it in this moment, and hypnosis can really help you do that, and it can help define or redefine your goals and really help you to explore your feelings behind where you're headed. So
when you said before you measured your experience in hypnotherapy with the birth of your, was it second child?
Yes.
So is that because you went through a hypnobirthing journey and then was so taken by that as a tool and a powerful thing to learn as a woman that then you trained in it?
Yeah, I mean, the hypnobirth thing, I would never ever have gone to a hypnotherapist. Hypnosis was not on my radar at all. It was just all top men in top hats, evil hypnotists, sucking witches.
The old stereotype.
Scooby-Doo has a lot to answer.
They do, don't they?
And so when someone said hypnobirthing, and it was all about pain-free birth and everything back then, and I was like, give me some of that. I mean, who wouldn't say no to that?
Sign me up, yes.
And so I was 15 weeks. I just listened to tracks before I went to bed at night. There were no courses around then or anything, not really. And it was just, it wasn't straightforward because he was early.
Yes.
But I had a feedback, which is a vaginal birth after a cesarean, under very, very challenging circumstances. And I felt amazing, absolutely incredible. And I was like, I felt completely different to my first birth, not just the birth itself and how in control I felt, but also afterwards, as I moved into motherhood, I was really well equipped. And I'm not going to lie, I struggled with anxiety and all those things that new parents often talk about, and it's hard work, but I was equipped to deal with them. And my husband was like, and also the pain aspect was extraordinary. I mean, the midwives were kicking the monitor because they didn't believe that I was having proper contractions. They thought the monitor was broken.
So they're looking at you going, what we can see on our monitor is physically happening, you are not responding to in a way that we would expect.
Yeah, precisely. So there were several things there. And my husband was like, why don't you go and do a course and find out more about this? Because it's really interesting. And he's a scientist. So I, instead of just going on a short course, I thought, went all in, and I just trained as a hypnotherapist.
I love it.
And then it was incredible. And I went on, and I've been working with clients for a very long time. And then kind of in my late 30s, I started to see patterns in the clients that I was seeing about their age, what they were presenting with. And because of the hypnobirthing work I'd done around hormones and transitions and that feel of being in control, empowerment, I suddenly started to make those connections between what was happening in the brain. And there are so many similarities that haven't been researched in menopause, because it's women's health, isn't it?
Yeah, we wouldn't give money to that. Don't be ridiculous.
So, but we do know they do more research in perinatal mental health, and
yes,
we understand
absolutely
a bit more about the maternal brain. So, and we know that the brain makes adaptations in during pregnancy and in the days and weeks after a baby has been born. For example, recognizing the cues, recognizing your baby's cues. And that part of the brain actually grows while the baby's really young and gets smaller as you recognize the cues. So there are physical changes that happen in the brain. And I just thought, that's going on in pregnancy and birth, and it's hormonally driven. Something is going to be happening in menopause. And it's not just about losing grey matter and things like that. Because men always also lose.
Yeah, exactly. Hello.
It's not just a female thing.
Yes.
And so, I started to sort of look at that and look at what people were presenting with. And a lot of the women that were coming to see me probably didn't have a clue they were in perimenopause.
No.
And that's still true, I think. And so then I started to do more work around that and started to look into the research around that more. And really, I mean, if people say to me, well, what is hypnosis for menopause? I say, well, it's like hypnobirthing, but for menopause.
Yeah.
And it's not just one day, it's like spread over a longer period of time. So it's not just like the proactive pain management techniques and visualizations and things. It's also the maintenance work is really important. So it's kind of this two-prong approach.
My brain wants to ask so many questions. I'm going to try and be organized here. So there's a few things. So first of all, when you use hypnobirthing, I just want to honor the fact that you're interested and you just go, I'm going all in. Like, I'm just going to dive in. I'm going to master the crap out of this. And then my next most kind of logical pathway of questions is, when you say you were seeing patterns, what sort of patterns were you seeing? And I'm interested in, like you said before, like emotional, but also what was turning up physically that you were going, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. What were you seeing that kind of twigged that? Oh,
yeah, they're the obvious things. So people come to a hypnotherapist because usually I'm the last resort. I should be the first resort, but I'm usually the last resort. And so people will come to me generally for things like sleep, weight loss, anxiety. Those are sort of classic ones. And so you start to see differences. If you see someone who's got a sudden shift in their sleep pattern and there's nothing that's happened in their life to precipitate that, you kind of think, well, yeah, that might be hormone related. Irritability and anxiety. I'm just being really fractious with the children, more so than normal, that sort of thing.
I just wrote a post about being itchy and bitchy. I'm like, that's me right now. Itchy bitchy.
I'm just bitching my wrist. Yeah. But the interesting thing with itching, the minute you say itch, what do you want to do?
Suggestion.
And we'll talk about, so we're going to talk about suggestion around the narrative in media around menopause. I think that's really helpful. So you've got, and the weight loss thing as well. What I found a little bit upsetting actually when clients came in, where sometimes I get clients in their late 50s and they've been struggling for years and they've been to the doctor, they've been referred from pillar to post, and they come to me and they've got joint problems, so it's harder to exercise. They've put on a lot of weight, so that makes it harder. And they're stressed about it, so they've got high cortisol, which is going to make it harder.
This can compound everything.
There was a moment when I was sitting across from this really lovely woman, and she looked at me and she said, I want to be a size 10 like I was in my 20s again. And she was in her late 50s. And I thought, if you come to me in your early 40s, I'm not saying that I can get everyone to be a size 10. We do work on realistic goals, but I just thought, if you if that woman had come in her early 40s and had put a plan in place that thought about menopause, thought about what physical changes were going to happen in her body, because it's going to happen to every woman, and changed their exercise habits so they were more weight-based. And that can be quite difficult for some people who like to get a sweat on. And you must know that as a yoga teacher.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, some people find it really struggle. It's like, I'm not really doing exercise.
This is not counting. And it's like, well, yes. Anyway, don't get me started on that. I've got a bit of a bugbear in my bonnet about that at the moment.
So it's getting that. So hypnotherapy can help get over those kind of barriers to participation in different types of exercise, and can establish really great habits around nutrition, exercise, motivation, thoughts and feelings, can equip you with those tools early on. And I think that's what we're missing. That is the missing piece of the puzzle for all of this. We are on the back foot.
And this is a key time of like, I used to work for a period of time in aged care, and one of the things that was really in my face in that couple of years was that it became like, I'd always known the concept of, you know, modifiable lifestyle risk factors and influencing them. And like, I'm originally a geneticist, so I've got that kind of like, yes, I understand that, you know, your genes is what you've got, but they can be turned on and turned off and influenced and whatever. I always knew that intellectually. But working there and seeing 95-year-olds not using a walker, still getting around quite sprightly with it, you know, healthy, you know, body weight range, very interested in life and curious still and have that spark. And then on the other side, 60-year-olds who have either never had a reference point of feeling healthy in their body. And so that's just snowballed and compounded, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, as you're saying, like increased weight, less, you know, joint pain, and then no movement, and then the food, and, you know, like it's just this slippery slope. But it was so clear to me that you see 60-year-olds who are in wheelchairs, and a lot of the chronic disease, you know, that they had was very influenceable by lifestyle factors. And I'm just like, this is a window where, like, if not before, this is when we need to be intervening. Otherwise, it can get too late and too whatever. I'm interested when you were with this lady and she's saying, you know, I want to be, you know, this in my 20s. Where do you even start with such a, like, I feel like it's like 90% down the snowball of, you know, how do you start working with someone one-on-one to kind of start pulling that back? Is it the suggestions around all the fundamentals that just get rinsed and repeated until there's actually a big change, or how does it kind of work in terms of?
Well, I would start by, I wouldn't say to anyone that's unrealistic, because it might work for her. I don't know. But where I would start on is, I'd set a long-term goal, but then I would focus on the shorter-term goals about maybe, is there an outfit you want to wear? Is there something that you'd like to do in a month's time? If you know, so setting shorter-term goals, and really starting to explore the thoughts that are going on behind that. Why do you want to look like you're in your 20s again? And that's the kind of something I think in menopause, which we all wrestle with because of our culture. You know, you just have to go onto TikTok, and there's a filter at the moment which makes you look, you know, it's this one where you look like you're a teenager again, and it's quite triggering. You watch, it's quite triggering for some people.
Oh my Lord.
But it's this obsession with wanting to look younger. And there's this other trend on TikTok, which is no one wants to be my friend when they find out I'm 48, and they're looking really young. They're like a really young
for
48.
goodness sake.
And then you look at their hands and you think, there's no way that woman is 48.
Unless she is very quickly aged in one part of her body.
So there is this weird obsession with age, and I just think it's getting like under the skin of that, and understanding it and having that discussion with people. But yeah, it's that. So that's where I would start. But you know, apart from those obvious things like weight, sleep, anxiety, there are very specific things that come up, and one of those is driving.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. Yes, I actually wanted to talk about this. No, I did, because I was looking back through your Instagram feed and I was like, I've heard this a few times and it's never been in my awareness before. So yeah, can you talk about what you're talking about? Well, can you please explain?
Well, driving seems to be a bit of a metaphor unconsciously. And I have seen quite a lot of women for phobias suddenly about driving. And they're usually on A roads. Like in the UK, we have dual carriageways and A roads and motorways. So, and you know, I've worked with a few of these, and they're not often based in the driving. They're often somewhere else, but they end up in driving. And I think there's like the metaphor of driving forward and this change. That's where my thinking is.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know why it is. And you know, so I'll give you an example of one person in my book actually, and she developed a phobia of being a passenger or in a car or in an enclosed space, but it had manifested of being in a car. And it's not uncommon and this is something that's completely anecdotal. And I started talking about it and saying, I'm seeing this. And then other therapists, psychologists would say to me, I've seen it too. And it was not just the car one, but sudden onset phobias, like around menopause or just post-menopause. And it's almost as if it's bringing up stuff from very early on because you need closure on them before you die. It's a really interesting phenomenon. But also, if you've had trauma before the age of 9, you're more likely to have severe anxiety and depression in perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few. There's a very well-known celebrity in the UK who's very vocal about menopause, and she's openly talked about her childhood trauma, and she's a real HRT proponent. And I think she's really struggled with the mental aspects of it. And I always think that link is really interesting as well. So this sudden onset phobia is something which people are seeing in the therapy room, but hasn't really been researched. So, and I think it manifests in the driving one. And the woman I work with, she was on a boat and on a cruise somewhere, and it just came on when they closed the curtain. Just that was it in the cabin, and she felt in that closed space.
Wow.
And it did go back to something that happened to her as a child. And something she was very torn between, because there was love and hate in this, love and anger.
Hard to reconcile.
Love and fear that she had to reconcile in that moment. And then once we'd worked on that and worked on aspects of forgiveness and letting go, and at a deep level, she was fine. She's back in the car again.
Wow.
And then, and there are other people that I've worked with where it's been other areas of life where the block has been, where they've perhaps felt hemmed in, things like that. And it's manifested in driving. It's so
curious, isn't it? Because
I find it really curious.
Yeah. Where my mind goes is it's almost like, I don't know, one of the big questions that we ask ourselves in these transition times is like, who am I? Where am I going? Who am I becoming? That time. So that's where my mind goes to. It's like, I'm on a journey from one, I don't believe in versions of selves, but, one way of being to this different way of being. But when you're in the middle, it's really discombobulating. So it's like, what? But as you're talking, I'm just like, I've never had the driving phobia, but I definitely have had a moment where I've just got a little zippy car. I like little zippy cars, and we often have to drive 2.5, 3 hours away to family like functions and stuff. And this one night we were going to 21st, 30th, whatever, doesn't matter. And I just hated being in the car because there's 4 of us in the car. It's just too many people in too small a space. And I spent the entire trip like this. And what I ended up doing is just actually putting my headphones in and just listening to Insight Timer guided meditations just to try and completely check out, because I was just like, I am having a really strong reaction. It's only happened the once, but now that you're actually talking, I'm like, maybe that was a driving related. I think it was more so the space thing, the confined. And to me, it's, I don't know, it's just more of the itchy bitchy type of really irritable, and we'd had a very busy day. So I feel like I just didn't have any time to just, settle my feathers and get back in my body and not kind of be rushing from one thing to the other. That transition.
Those moments are important. Those, and it need those opportunities to rest. But I also think the traveling aspect, the moving away from home during menopause is an interesting one, because it's not just travel. It's not just in a car. It's travel that people get more stressed about as well.
Yes.
And I just think there's a retreat aspect in menopause. You have that again as a new parent during that transition.
Yeah, you do.
That need to retreat. And it's almost like, I think it's a way of reducing stress and protecting your brain at this stage, because it's making these physical changes. And it's like, if you have a piece of china and you pop it in big bumpy the back of the car seat and it's thudding along, but then you wrap it up really and you give it, you protect it and look after it. And I don't know, that is just completely theoretical.
Well, I am agreeing with you, because
observation.
We were just talking before we started recording about the fact that I'm redoing my office, and my main aim for redoing the space that is my office is that I am wanting to create a nest. That is my I want to, we're going into autumn. I've got this very, very deep pull to be everything in our house is white, which I've always loved, and all open and lots of sunlight and everything. And now I'm like, I want dark and I want sanctuary and I want haven and I want to wrap myself up and snuggle on down. Like I've got that very strong pull. And even the textures of things, like I want velvet and I want soft stuff and I want squishy stuff and I want, like, it's all very tactile. And when I'm the most itchy bitchy, which is what I call my sort of like, if I've got really good earplugs that completely block everything out. So I put those in, put an eye mask on, and then just get on my mat, put my legs up on the wall. And it's exactly what you were saying. It's just cutting. It's like my brain's got enough to do at the moment. It's reorganizing itself. It's figuring out what, where things need to go, like refiling or whatever, however you want to describe it. And so I get to the stage where I've just got too much stimulus and I need to just stop, remove everything. And I guess when you're talking, as we go away from home, by definition, we're not in an as familiar environment, or we're dealing with people that we don't always do, or whatever. Like there's more things for your brain to be working on, I guess, or juggling.
That is absolutely spot on. It's the environment and the familiarity. And so in birth, you have to feel like you're in a familiar environment. It has to be dark
and safe.
And safe. And actually in the new mama book I've got, I've actually got an illustration of someone sitting with lots of packing boxes to file. Because it's like it's moving from one place to the other. And it is. I think the really important thing with perimenopause and menopause is to think this is transitional. This isn't going to last this way forever.
No.
So I can't talk about that from experience because I am thick in the middle of the transition.
As am I.
But I do have clients, and I do have my mum's very open about this. And so
beautiful.
I chat with her friends and her about where they are and what their journey was. And so it is really interesting seeing where that journey takes us. And, people say, oh, alcohol, I can't drink alcohol in menopause. And so, I was talking to my mum about this, and she goes, oh, don't worry, that bit passes.
Yeah, that comes back. That
does come back. So so it's really good, I think, to talk about these things and know these things as well.
Absolutely.
So if you do have an older relative that you can talk to about these things.
You've just reminded me of something. Like I was just about to say, that's why I purposely ask people that are postmenopausal to come on as well and share their stories of transition, because I really think that a lot of what we are missing, like I don't have a female relative that I would talk to about those sorts of things, but if I can sit at the feet of someone who's on the other side, and then because I've just watched just recently this week on our TV was an audience with Adele, and I've got her song Hello from the Other Side. Sorry everyone, I will not sing again ever, but I've got that sense of like we're in the middle. And it's like, we want to be talking to the women on the other side so they can go, oh, don't worry about that. That's fine. That passes. You won't feel itchy bitchy all the time. You won't have to have earplugs in 24 hours a day, because that's a relief, right? Because then we do get a sense that it's transitional and that it's not this permanent thing. I just wrote a post about feeling like perimenopause, like similar to, and now that you're talking about the brain changes, it's like firming up kind of this nebulous concept that I had when I was writing this. So I feel like we go through this portal when we go through teenage, like we go from child to adult, and we go through this big transitional portal, and things rearrange and we change emotionally and like our perspective of the world and what's important to us and all of those things. And then if we decide to be mums or have the gift of being mums, then we go through that portal, and we have to have the time and space to kind of reorganize. I'd really love to start talking about perimenopause as just another portal. It's like from this part of our life to another part of our life. And coming back to your what you said before about how menopause is talked about in the media, I think that is some of the damage that gets done to those. Like I know that a lot of the things say on TikTok, say for menopause, like I just scooted around on TikTok. I'm not big into TikTok, but I just scooted around today because I was interested to see what the conversation was. There are so many flipping posts about, oh, I'm so hot, and I'm so like really negative connotations. And I know they're done from a lighthearted perspective, but
it's not lighthearted.
No, it's not.
It's self-deprecating in
Yes.
ways as well. And the fact that, and I think that this, what you've just told me is, you know, I don't see any of those videos at all. I do love TikTok, actually. I spend too much time on TikTok. But
do you know why I was on there, to be perfectly honest? This morning at 5:30, like a long time ago, I interviewed Sarah Smeaton, who then put me onto TikTok watching partner improvised dance, where they've never met the person they dance with, and they've never done the dance.
I've seen those. Yeah,
I got sucked in. I'm like, Sarah. I think it's good in one way because it's a positive, viewing on TikTok, but in another way, I'm like, oh my God, I've been sucked in.
But I have learned genuinely found some interesting things on TikTok.
Yes.
But the reason why I don't get the hot flushes thing is because I don't stop. I just scroll straight by. So if you stop and watch things like that, you'll see more of it.
Yeah, you're teaching it.
And that is how your brain works as well. Your brain is like an algorithm. If you imagine your brain as a social feed.
Yep.
And your starting point is menopause is shit. I've got to go through this. I'm going to get these hot sweats. I'm going to put on weight, all this sort of stuff. If those are your fears and your worries and your thoughts about menopause, and that's your starting point, what happens then is your brain goes through this process of like internal, external snap. So it looks for things externally, which matches your internal narrative, because otherwise the world is just too big and too confusing.
Yeah, too many pieces of stimulus. And
so with social media, it's just like that. If that's where your starting point, you're going to see more of that. So your feed is filled with that stuff. And then when you talk about itchy bitchy, the first thing you start to think is, oh, itching. Oh no, where's that itch? Oh, that must be, oh no, now I've got really itchy skin. I'm going to have to do, and it's, and so you've got to break that narrative. And so podcasts like this, social media accounts that are really positive about this stage of our lives, that equip us to be strong, to be excited about what's going on. Those are your light bulb moments. Those are your brain change moments.
Yeah.
So, but you have to seek them out. So it's you've got to have a starting point, and that starting point may be a podcast like this. You may have stumbled on this podcast and think, oh, I didn't know this sort of thing existed. I'm going to go and find out more about this. It could be a friend saying, I'm having a great time. My kids have gone to uni. I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to choose. Are you going to be the empty nester who's at home going through menopause, thinking I miss my children, my purpose in life, or are you going to be the person like me who has booked a solo circular walk the day after she drops her kids off at university?
Stop it.
So
I love it. Do you know what we did? We bought a motorbike, same sort of thing. I was like, my kids are gone. The nest is, well, one of them's gone. One of them's still at home, but I hardly see her. And we're like, I said to my husband, I think it's time for not a midlife crisis, a midlife metamorphosis. What are we going to do to I'm like, who are you? I haven't kind of really just hung out with just you. What are we like? What are we choosing for ourselves? And we used to have a motorbike before we had kids, and then we got responsible and sold the bike, as you do. And now we're like, we're going to get a big cruiser and we are going around Australia. Because exactly that. It's like I'm choosing. It's the choice. Yeah. But I think what I want to really pull out for people listening about the concept of your brain being a social media feed is the first piece is always to be aware that you're swimming in that ocean. So if you're not even, I'm sure this is, where you start with anything that you do with clients, it's like, what are your anchor beliefs that you're actually filtering the world with? Like, do you even realize that there is a filtering going on where you're actually literally deleting lots of things that don't add up to what you expect to see? And what you're reminding me of is a similar thing. I went through a very significant stage of very restrictive eating and got into a very messy place. One of the things I decided to do when I decided that was not going to be the way I chose myself is deliberately change the ocean of social media, and therefore the reminders and the things that my brain was constantly seeing about, controlling your food, like a very restrictive kind of, and, the body image type of stuff. But when I speak to people about it, sometimes they're not even aware that they're swimming in an ocean. Like, it's like you're actually only seeing part of this whole beautiful picture. And even when I say the itchy bitchy thing, like the post was actually about itchy bitchy brave. Like it's like this, the reality of like, sometimes I feel like this, sometimes I feel super powerful and deep intuitive, like magic happening. And then I'm back to the, and it's like, it is what it is. Like that's the dance, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Yes. When you were talking about media in terms of menopause, were you also talking about more mainstream media? Like, is that something that you were thinking when you mentioned that?
Yeah, I mean, really it's about the belief you create around menopause. So it's about what we see. It can be media, so it can be social media, it can be TV, it can be news articles, but it can also be friends' stories and things like that can influence you, relative stories. So it's everything that comes into your awareness starts to create a narrative until it gets to a point where you're in a current. You imagine it like that, and the current gets strong enough. And usually that's way before you get to perimenopause, because I bet if you spoke to a 20-year-old, they'd be like, oh yeah, hot flushes, really, really insane moods and this sort of thing. That's in the 20s. Fortunately, there are in the UK, some schools are starting to teach about it a bit more now. Yeah, I've heard rumors, but I think that is happening in some schools. But those seeds are planted very, very young. And also you have often, if you're menopausal, midlife, you're often going through this, if you've got daughters who are also going through hormonal changes. So that can be, that can be really inflammatory sometimes and can really affect relationships as well. But yeah, so I think having these discussions with younger women and with your children is really important as well. Because I think the generation now is changing, but I think there is a huge division between the positive and this time of your life being really exciting and but also recognizing that you will have days that feel rotten as well. I'm not saying that I don't feel that, of course I do, but I see it and I know what to do with it. And there's the other side of it, whereas it's, and I will say this really, I am not anti-HRT at all.
No.
I think it's really important to make that choice. But there is this kind of division between a medicated menopause and a natural menopause.
I know.
When actually the two should be working symbiotically. You can't, HRT is not a magic pill. You still need the lifestyle stuff. And even if you're doing the lifestyle stuff, you may need top-ups.
Exactly.
And you don't have to take it the rest of your life. You can take it for a few months, see if it works, helps you. So, I think we should be having more of a discussion around this. And I think these two camps, and I tend to think the HRT is associated with more symptoms-based stuff. Really kind of, for obvious reasons. But I think when you read a lot of those accounts, it's very focused on the symptoms. And there's still saying, certainly in hypnosis, and I think in other areas where focus goes, energy flows. So if you start looking for one thing, you start seeing it, and then your focus is on that. It comes into your awareness. So, and it's how you see things and perceive things. So I wake up around 4:00 most mornings. I'm awake for about an hour and a half. And I was talking to my friend about this, and she was like, "Wait, that's perimenopause." And I said, "Oh no, it's just a bit of waking time." And I call them my peaceful pauses. I might put on Insight Timer, or I've got the Sam Harris Waking Up app, which I really love.
I don't know about that one.
Oh yeah, I really love that. It's more, it's a paid for app. It's quite expensive for the year, but it's just a really nice collection of lectures and essays and courses and things like that.
Beautiful.
So I put something like that on, and I don't see that as something that is difficult for me, and I use other ways of resting. So, and it never even occurred to me when people talk to me about insomnia and not being able to sleep. I work with them, but it never occurred to me that I was having the same thing, because that's just not how I see it.
No.
And I never got stressed or worried about it. And when she said that, I was like, oh, maybe. And then my focus started to go on it a bit.
Of course.
Like, stop.
Yeah.
Because that's your peaceful pause.
Yeah, exactly. I interviewed a neurobiologist who's written a book called The Women's Brain Book, and has just released, I think, or just about to, one on the changes in the brain in motherhood. So exactly what you're talking about before. And one of the things that we talked about in that interview was how effective CBT is for insomnia, which is linked to menopause, and also managing night sweats and hot flushes linked to menopause. And that piqued my interest, because what they're not saying that they're changing the symptomology, they're changing what you're making it mean. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
So there's a fact. Yeah, sorry.
So I take a CBT based approach to hypnotherapy, very similar. So you set goals and kind of work around that. You give people practical tools, things like that. You reframe things, so you get people to see things in a different and better way.
Yes.
And yeah, CBT is certainly, they're suggesting CBT first and then medication, because the outcomes are so good for CBT around insomnia. But also hot sweats. I mean, I find it infuriating that people are talking about CBT and hot flushes when the evidence around hypnosis and hot flushes is so strong.
Is it? I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like Gary Elkins is a researcher in the States who's been doing quite a lot of work on menopause. And in his studies, I think it shows like 73% of people saw improvements in their hot flushes using hypnosis.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And it's a way of, you teach them a mix of self-hypnosis, which is the maintenance. So you teach people how to do self-hypnosis.
Yes.
But there is an argument that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, because you choose to go into that state.
Yeah.
And everyone's in hypnosis twice a day, at least, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you teach you can teach a lot of imagery, like cooling imagery. And there is a script for this, a track that I recorded as part of my book, Mindful Menopause, and you can get it for free.
I know you've got to go very soon, so I'm very mindful of your time, but we haven't even started talking about the 3 books that you've got, but also you've got a huge amount of resources that people can actually access right off your website, ready to go.
Yeah. And the Penguin, I'll give you the link afterwards so you can pop it up.
Perfect.
But the Penguin link to the book has all the tracks that you can just listen to for free. And so you can see if you get on with it. Yeah. And then, if you like it, you can buy the book and you can go through the other techniques. And
thank you. What a gift.
There are over 70 different techniques for different things in the book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Far out. Oh my goodness. Final question, and I've got to pick a good one because there's about 50 in my hand. I am interested to hear, coming back to your big day tomorrow, and you said, I'm feeling all the feels. I know you thought you were going to get away with it. No, you didn't. You didn't think that, but I'm just interested because given that you have worked for so many years assisting, like healing and helping through those transitions for other people, I'm interested to hear what sort of feelings are coming up. And when you were saying about maintenance before, like, how do you practice the self-care of making sure you're as supported as possible through the transition?
Okay, so first of all, in terms of support, my kids are going through A-levels at the moment. So we've got quite a lot going on at home. And so I've said to my husband, I am pulling back on work and only working on a few projects. I've got very clearly defined projects which allow me to take breaks. So that's the first thing, having the support at home to do that. And in terms of what's coming up for me, lack of direction. So I felt I absolutely love my work. I love what I do, but I feel quite lost in terms of feeling grounded in it. So I've done a lot of work around that. Yeah. So I do yoga. And I see a psychotherapist every week. I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Absolutely.
And I see a spiritual counselor once a month. So I do deeper spiritual work as well.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of inner child processing at a spiritual level. But then what's coming up with my psychotherapy is really interesting. So I've never been frightened of death or ever had any fear of death or anything like that. But that is the predominant theme at the moment in my therapy sessions.
Really?
Yeah. And my last session, she's a Gestalt. I don't mind talking about this. I think it's really interesting and helpful for people.
It is, absolutely.
And she's a Gestalt psychotherapist.
Yes.
So she works with different parts and she's somatic as well. So we do a lot of
she's a unicorn. I love her already.
She is great. And you know, the other week I was talking to her about this, and she said, right, describe it to me. Go into that feeling, you know, a bit how I work. And so for me, it went through the session, and it was this big black shaggy dog sitting on the chair in the room, and it was my own dog. It was nobody else's dog. It wasn't frightening. It was just there, and it, you know, and so we talked about it in that way, and started to explore those feelings and why I was feeling that way. And people around me, I've seen people not far off my age die and get ill and everything. So that's so, and I think you can't turn your back on these things, because if you do, they're still there.
Oh, and they're still running along on automatic pilot, filtering your reality for more of the same, right? Unless you bring them out to the surface. Yeah,
and so that was kind of, you know, the last session I had was and really bringing that up. And then the next day, this is a funny part. The next day, my son came up to me, and he's a big reader and everything, and he said, "Have you heard the story about?" Is looking into mythology and mythological tales in a county near us, and there's a big black dog.
No way. Oh my goodness.
Mythological story of this black dog and the history of it. And I was like, oh no, this is just too weird. But,
so what was the history of it? Like, was it what sort of?
It was to do with death. It was.
Oh my goodness.
And so, I mean, I'm really into Jung as well, and symbolism, and how symbols represent our inner narrative. And I play with a lot of this imagery in my sessions.
Yeah.
So I love working that way myself. And so that's where I am. I'm thinking a lot about endings and beginnings, and, you know, just feeling that sense of being unsettled, and a sense of finality as well, which I haven't felt before in my life. And it's not a bad thing. It's unsettling. It's a new experience. But it's also galvanizing, because you think, right, I've got all this stuff to do. And, you know, and
let's go there.
Let's do these things.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's not, I talk about this in my book. The affirmation that I use for that is breathe, you are alive. And just being able to see the flowers and the leaves of the tree, and there's like a wood pigeon that sits outside on the branch all the time. They live in the tree outside my room, and just seeing that and feeling my feet on the ground, doing a grounding exercise. But that affirmation really brings me back to, wow, it is an amazing thing to be alive in this moment, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, what a magical affirmation. That reminds me of when my dad was dying. He was in hospital, and it was at the same time that we had these really, really big floods, and we would get flooded into our house, and I couldn't get to the hospital. And there was a lot of stuff going on. And I remember being in the car. I finally got out from where we lived, and I was in the car, and I'm driving through floodwater, but I want to get to Dad. I haven't been able to get to him. And he palliated for 8 weeks. So it was a lot. It was a longer process than we thought it was going to be. And there was lots going on. And I hit a puddle of water, and then my car started to kind of aquaplane off towards, and I would have hit the guardrail, and it would have, there was nothing catastrophic going to happen. But from somewhere outside of me, I had the words, "You are safe, you are well, be calm." And it just repeated as always. And I was just like, oh, I still get goosebumps. Same sort of thing. It's just like, you know, yes, this is happening and you're still well and safe and you can be calm and you can trust in bigger than you. And I think that's the beauty of those moments, isn't it? When you can reconnect to the what is rather than listening to this beautiful mind of ours that sometimes gets stuck on things.
Our noisy, complex, beautiful minds.
Yeah. Let's go very quickly through your 3 books because we haven't even talked about that. But you have a book about birthing, a book about motherhood, and then a book about menopause and how to support yourself through those. Have I done a good enough synopsis, or would you like to add something?
No, there's the first book, which is Mindful Hypnobirthing. And it's actually, whenever I look, it is number 1 in the Australian lists for obstetrics. It sells really well in Australia.
So cool.
It's the audio book because I've narrated all the audios as well.
Oh, you've got such a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. And a lot of people buy them as audiobooks.
Nice.
So I know that one sells really well in Australia. And then the new mother one is for the first year. So it's for the mother and it's really practical. And then the menopause one is the one where, that's my last one. So I think it's my last one.
And before we started recording, you were actually, there's 2 trainings, but also something that you want to deliver to our Australian listeners as an invitation.
Yes, my sister is a yoga teacher in Sydney, in Hornsby, and if anyone's looking for a Hornsby yoga teacher, she's amazing. She's been doing it for 20 years. So she has got a yoga studio in her back garden, and she's near the Northern Beaches.
Yes.
And so next year, I've been over before to do training in her room, but I'm thinking about coming over next year to do hypnobirthing training, teacher training. So if people want to learn my method of hypnobirthing, which is blended with mindfulness, they could do that. And I also do training for using hypnosis and mindfulness tools in menopause. So for complementary therapists, and that's a 2-day course. So both of them are 2-day courses, and the Mindful Hypnobirthing one also has the whole course and all the resources on a self-guided online. So you can do the course and then do the live with me at a later date.
Very good.
So it's sort of that way. So if anyone's interested in doing that, it'd be really good to know, because then I will definitely get the things in motion.
And we will put your email in the show notes. And if people can email Sophie directly with expressions of interest for one or both of those things, because we have a lot of Australian listeners. And if you're there, and I've got a good friend in Northern Beaches, so I may well come to the menopause one. That would be very cool.
Well, it is fantastic because it's my sister Esther, she's been a yoga therapist for 20 years. So she comes on and does some of the mindfulness aspects and the body scans. And so we blend our work together. So the courses in Australia are very different and really special because it sounds
beautiful.
She's menopausal as well. And kind of we come together and we've got all these different approaches, but we've also got that real, obvious connection.
So cool.
Intuitiveness when we're working together. So it was really special when we did it before.
Sign me up, Sophie. Sophie Fletcher, it has been an absolute blinking honor. Thank you so much, you and your divine green wall with my finals. I'm in love with that color. Stay tuned, listeners, because that color is going to be back there very soon.
It's the color of your leaves.
It is actually. Like I was saying before, the cushions that I've got, which is a material that I bought, like that's and this is where creating the cocoon with the rich colors and all of that thing. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get to summer again, though, and I'll be like, okay, it's hot in here and I want white back. But anyway, that's fine. Nothing that a coat of paint wouldn't help.
Get yourself a nice white caftan.
Yeah, exactly.
Float around in white.
Oh, I tell you what, it's darn hot in summer in here, and we've only just, obviously we're opposite to you guys, so but autumn hasn't shown up yet. We have it has been 35 degrees today, so yeah, it's hot.
Oh, it's perfect spring weather here.
Enjoy. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an
Thank you.
absolute delight getting to know you. Thank you. Hello, beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I trust you received some golden nuggets or key takeaways that will help you to create the space and grace to more gently traverse this perimenopausal transition. I know that sometimes these midlife years feel rather messy, but they do have a magical purpose. We are literally smack bang in the middle of a powerful, potent, sometimes painful portal, the rite of passage of perimenopause. And the way I see that is that it's a bridge between our younger, energetic, dating and mating, climbing the ladder, easily able to juggle all the balls self, and our older, wiser, take no bullshit, deeply anchored in our own internal guidance, free of obligation, duty, roles and responsibilities that no longer fit us, and way more powerful wise woman within. And what's the wise woman doing right now? She's calling you to gently, patiently cradle yourself whilst you burn down what no longer serves, whilst you honour your needs, while you connect and repattern old limiting things, and you surrender to this deep midlife metamorphosis. I have created something really special for us to get together online every month, completely free. They're called the Soothe Sessions, and it's a chance to join me to create the space and the grace to calm your mind, soothe your nervous system, and learn to feel really safe in your body so that you can let the wise woman have her way with you. We'll join online every month for 90 minutes, and the sessions will include a little bit of a fundamental background info about this powerful portal of perimenopause. I'll share with you a simple and effective tool from my toolbox to offer you some self-soothing when this tricky transition starts to get you down. And my toolbox includes everything from sleep science to energetic medicine, bodywork, shiatsu, traditional Chinese medicine, oriental psychology, yoga, meditation, breath work, all sorts of weird and wonderful East meets West goodness. I'll also offer you a high quality question for your self-awareness and growth. And then perhaps most delicious of all, a super relaxing 20-minute restorative yoga or yoga nidra to allow you the space and grace to integrate what you've learnt. You will find everything about the Soothe Sessions underneath the show notes in all the podcast platforms, and also on my website at kyliepatchett.com.au under free monthly masterclass. I hope you will take the opportunity to join me. I'd love to meet more of you live, and I will be swapping the time zones around from evening to early morning Australian time so that everyone around the world, including the 29 countries that Zoom on in across Australia and the Asia Pacific region and Europe and the Americas, and even Iceland, which I've just seen today, which is pretty cool. So yeah, the time zones will actually change so that they'll be good for you. And if you register, there will always be a replay. So I hope you'll join me. Here's to you going gently through this midlife metamorphosis, and have a beautiful day. Thanks so much for listening into today's episode. If you love the show, as I hope you do, please take the time to subscribe on your favorite pod listening platform and rate and review. And for bonus points, if you have a friend or someone who popped to mind as you were listening to this episode, why not hit the share link wherever you're listening and send them a little love bomb. Like, listen to this. Did you know this is normal? I really, really, really would love to get these beautiful stories into the hearts and ears and minds of so many more midlife mavens, and your help spreading the love is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm Kylie Patchett, your host, and have a spectacular day.